We're back. We're back. Let's see who's watching. Okay, so sorry, I hopped off. I hopped back on. It appears the sound was not working well. Oh my gosh. Okay, perfect. Awesome. I'm glad you can hear. Okay, so we'll just start from the beginning. Anyways, today's training, how to build a workout plan that actually works. I was basically, the short version of what I was saying is that this is kind of a really complicated subject to really go ahead and specifically lay down a framework for this because everybody's body responds to exercise a little differently, and especially because genetics play a role in this, as well as just how much experience you have in the gym. But however, what we can do is understand the things that most people are doing the wrong way, and that's basically just from my experience of writing hundreds of workout plans over the past 7 years. So we're going to talk about the 7 most common mistakes I've noticed in people's workout plans, and I think that will answer a lot of questions that people have. And then feel free to ask any questions, and if you're on Team Replay, let me know you're on Team Replay. Okay, so without that being said, the first mistake that people make, the number one most common mistake, is that people don't have a workout plan at all. Or on the other side of the coin, their workout plan is to look up a new workout every week, and every week or every other day or every day do a whole different workout. And I understand why people do this. I think it's feels good to constantly be pursuing variety. And if you have sort of doubts or fears about the effectiveness of a workout plan, it's really easy to be tempted to want to change things really quickly. But the biggest problem with either not having a plan or changing up your workouts all the time is that the number one thing that you need to build muscle, and whether you're losing fat, yes, Jay Naley, the number one thing, whether you're building muscle or trying to lose fat, you should be trying to build muscle because it's going to make you look tighter, it's going to make you look toner, it's going to make you stronger, and that's it. And boom, we're tagging people. I love it. And then it's going to make you stronger. And actually, the more muscle you have, the more fat that your body is going to be able to burn. It will speed up your metabolism. You'll be able to eat more as a result of this in the process of still losing fat. But in order to do that, you have to follow the number one principle of weightlifting / strength training / bodybuilding, which is progressive overload, which basically means that over time, you're gradually getting better and better, but the operative thing here is at the same exercises. So, this is huge, right? This is why I can't do bench press one week and then, I don't know, go ahead and do a bench machine the other week. Of course, we have to make tweaks and stuff if you go to a really crowded gym and there's not the equipment available. But for example, for my bodybuilding competition, right? I did the same exercises for 36 weeks. 36 weeks, the same exercises. That's why I look the way that I do. It's not because any of my exercises were magic in particular, but because the second principle of being able to consistently build muscle is that you have to have a really good mind-muscle connection, right? So we've all talked about this before inside the group, but mind-muscle connection is literally you being able to be in your muscles while you exercise. So if you're doing a bench press, it's not just about flinging your arms around and hurting your elbows and getting wacky with your triceps, but from the start of the press, feeling your chest squeeze together and smash together as you press, and you get that maximum range of motion. And then even when you're coming back down, still keeping that tension in the chest. You can kind of see here, seeing that pec stretch as you come back down. And if you're actively doing that, you're gonna get way more bang from your buck from any workout that you do. And by repeating the same exercises over and over for an entire training phase, which could be anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, for example, the longer you do the exercise, the better you're going to be able to use your muscles and the full range of motion, which is how we grow, which is how we burn the fat, which is how we increase our metabolism, which is how we actually get results. So let me know if that makes sense. And if you don't have any questions about that, I'm going to move on. So the second thing that I've seen so many people do, oh my gosh, and I'm guilty, I used to be guilty of this, like super guilty, and it held me back for years, is overtraining biceps and triceps. Like, if you are doing this, please stop. Please stop. I love you. It's all good. There's no judgment, but we've got to stop overtraining biceps and triceps. I see a lot of men especially who really want to grow big arms, and so the only thing that they know how to do about that is do like 3 different sets of 3 to 4 or 3 different clusters of 3 to 4 different bicep and tricep exercises. So like, let's say we're getting 12 sets of biceps exercises and 12 sets of tricep exercises in one workout. That's just too much. What's gonna happen if you do that consistently? Yes, John, I love that you're gonna stick to that. And we're gonna talk more specifically about what that looks like, but that's one of the key things. But yeah, as I was saying about biceps and triceps, if you're doing like 12 freaking sets of each per workout, and God forbid you're doing that like 3 times a week, your arms are not gonna grow. The only thing that's gonna happen is you're setting yourself up to have tendinitis. How do I know? From experience. Getting tendinitis myself from doing this exact thing, and also from witnessing some clients who came to me with that problem, looking at the workout plan, noticing they were doing a fuck ton, way too much. So for me, for example, I only do arms twice per week, and I do 4 sets of biceps and 4 sets of triceps in the 2 days per week that I actually train my arms. And if you're doing that and you actually have that solid mind-muscle connection and you actually aren't flying through the exercises, but maybe you're taking 2 counts on the eccentric part or whatever, and 2 counts on the concentric part, but actually spending some time in your reps, controlling the muscle and giving your muscles enough time to have time over tension, 2 to 3 times a week at 3 to 5 sets should be more than enough for both your biceps and your triceps. And if you're still not seeing enough arm growth, it's not actually because of those exercises. Chances are your mind-muscle connection is not where it needs to be. You're not specifically isolating the muscles well, or you are not doing enough compound movements where biceps or triceps are an accessory or like secondary thing that's trained in that exercise. So for example, a lot of my bicep size actually comes from doing a fuck ton of back, right? But you can put a ton of volume on your back without getting injured. Your biceps will grow from it, but your back won't get injured and your biceps will get injured. But if you do that for your biceps or you do that for your triceps, you're setting yourself up for injury and a lack of growth. So hopefully that makes sense. For the most part, 2 times a week for biceps and triceps. Some people genetically need 3 times, but if you're doing 3 times, there's no way you can do 3 times in 7 days without giving those muscles 48 hours to rest. And you should be giving them 48 hours to rest. So if you have to train your biceps 3 times, because that's where your genetics says, then I would recommend doing like 3 sets every 8 days or so. What's the next thing? Okay, so we talked about overtraining biceps and triceps. The next thing is people avoid body weight movements. It's so funny. Like, I've seen so many people skip straight past push-ups, squats, lunges, inverted rows, pull-ups. Skip past all the basics and go right to lifting up weights. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to lift weights, but think about this. For myself and for all of my clients, one of the first goals that I give them is to be able to squat, bench press, and deadlift their body weight. Because for me, I don't know about anybody else, but I want my baseline strength and fitness level to be able to effectively move my body weight. Because think about that. Think about how important it is to do that. So, and I'll give you an example, right, that really kind of dialed this in for me. So, my mom, for example, when she turned 50, she fell 3 times, and all 3 times she broke her arm, right? She broke her wrist. That should not happen. You should not be falling and breaking your bones. And if you are, the reason is because you're not strong enough to effectively hold and move your body weight. Someone's asking to join the live training. So yes, with that being said, being able to move your body weight, that's why I have that as my baseline standard. So, if you need some suggestions for that, right, I would recommend that you should be working towards being able to do a push-up. John, I'm not worried about you and push-ups. This doesn't necessarily apply to you. But you should be able to do 15 to 20 push-ups at the very least. You should be making it your goal, if you can't already, to be able to do somewhere from 6 to 10 pull-ups. You should be making it your goal to have a great body weight squat before you ever go and put weight on yourself. I've had so many clients who have squats and deadlifts as a part of their workout plan, but then when I tell them, I'm going to stand up for this, to go and do a deadlift, yes, who go and do a deadlift, I tell people to go and do a deadlift, and this is especially for my men, literally, they can't bend at their hips without doing a hunchback, right? You should not be doing a deadlift if your hamstrings are so tight that touching your toes looks like this. You need, one, to strengthen your hamstrings and your posterior chain, and two, to increase and work on your mobility. And that's gonna happen from being able to consistently do body weight squats and things like that consistently. So, yes, I'm glad you're writing it down, John. Does that make sense? Okay, so we talked about squats. Same thing goes for lunges. So many people are doing weighted lunges in their workout plans before they can do a proper lunge, right? So if you can't keep your knee tracking over your second toe, if you can't have that knee the back knee basically almost touch the ground, if you don't have this slight forward angle in your torso and you're able to keep a neutral spine and your chin tucked in your lunges, put down the fucking dumbbells, right? And do enough body weight lunges to where you don't look ridiculous doing a lunge. And I say this all with love because I know nobody's doing this on purpose, but first thing is first, right? Master your body weight stuff. And if you don't master it and you still want to train weights, you should still be working on some sort of progression of body weight exercises as part of your plan, right? So for example, for a push-up, you could start from your knees. You could then go to doing a full push-up, but maybe stack like 3 45-pound plates under your chest and then lower your chest to the plates and then press yourself up. And then when that gets really good, you can move one of the 45-pound plates and work towards the 2 45-pound plates. And then when that one gets good, you can just go down to 1. And then by the time you can do 15 to 20 of those, you can just move all the plates and bam, you're a master of push-ups, right? And we can do a similar progression with pull-ups, for example. Maybe you want to start doing inverted rows with your knees bent. And then from there, you want to do inverted rows with your knees your legs straight, and then from there you're going to go ahead and do assisted pull-ups, and then from there you're going to go ahead and do full pull-ups, right? But once again, another exercise in being able to consistently and effectively move your body weight, that's super important and should be a part of your regular routine. So hopefully this is all making sense so far. The next thing I wanted to talk about, which is right on time, is people are avoiding compound movement, right? So this is a lot of my people who are doing 57 sets of biceps and triceps per week, but never do a bench press because they're scared, never doing a squat because they're scared, never doing things like pull-ups and all this stuff, right? If compound movement, once you effectively can do body weight movement, is really where you get the most bang from your buck in a workout plan. So for example, let's make it specific. On a chest day, right? Like you should have like either a bench press or a push-up as like one of the cornerstones like of that chest focused day. Because if we're just doing a bunch of specific isolations, we're leaving a lot of gains on the table. We're leaving a lot of muscle on the table. We're leaving a lot of fat burning opportunity on the table. And this is where, like I said earlier in this training, this is where we get the extra love for our triceps and biceps. So for example, in another great compound movement is overhead press, right? Because most of us think of it as just shoulders, but yes, we're working our shoulders, our delts specifically, but you also are extending through the triceps, so that's where we're getting some extra love. And then you're also at the top of the movement, pinching together and elevating your scapula to work on your upper trapezius, right? So one exercise, we worked anterior, middle, rear delts, upper trapezius, and your upper trapezius and your triceps in the same exercise. Don't avoid stuff like that. Like something like an overhead press could be the foundation of when you go and do a shoulder day. So hopefully this is all making sense so far. What I also wanted to say, we talked about arms and compound movement, but this is also, compound movement is a great place to actually build core muscles in your squats, in your deadlifts, in your pull-ups, any of these things that require your whole body to move. Your core has to stabilize yourself. Glad it's making sense. Your core has to work actively to stabilize so that you are doing the movements without being in any of these wonky positions. So you're also missing out on an opportunity to get extra ab work in, which I know we all want that ab workout, by avoiding compound movement. So it should be in every workout. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is a pet peeve, so I hope you guys are ready. Biggest pet peeve ever is under training back, right? Like I see this so many times. People are like, Jay, I really want a big back. I want big back muscles. I want that gorilla gains. I want wings. I want to fly away with my back. Whatever it is that your goals, I feel it. Trust me. I love having a really developed back. It just makes me feel so confident and large and in charge. But what I really see is like people will have maybe 3 exercises tops on a back day. And let's talk about your back muscles, for example. Just in your back alone, if we're talking about the muscles back there, we've got our lats, our rhomboids, our traps, and our posterior chain, which is basically the muscles that act on your lower back. Specifically, it's a lot of times when you're hinging at the hips. So when you're doing any of these type of movements or a deadlift or a Superman or any of that stuff. But yes, tell me how you're going to train lats, rhomboids, traps, posterior chain, right? And even in the traps, we have upper, middle, lower traps. And the posterior chain is about 6 muscles, more even. But how are you going to train all of that with only doing 3 exercises? And if you're the typical bro, all 3 exercises are for lats. How does that make sense? So definitely make sure that you're doing enough volume on your back day. This is one thing that I would say you really kind of do need to customize, but I would recommend that you, depending on your skill level, you need at least 2 lat exercises, 2 rhomboid exercises. You probably need to train traps twice a week, and then you need to be lower back, sort of depends on your skill level. So if you're not ready to do like a deadlift or a squat or any sort of compound movement yet, then be specifically training your lower back through exercises like GHD sit-ups, or they're called Supermans, or reverse hyperextensions, or anything like that, to build up the strength to then be able to do compound movements. Because then once you're able to do things like bent over row, barbell good mornings, Romanian deadlifts, regular deadlifts, any sort of thing like that, then those are going to be actively involved in those exercises, and you'll start to build some development from that. So hopefully that makes sense. The next thing, I think we got everything for back. Oh, wow, we're flying through this. I love it. Okay, so the next big thing that I see people getting wrong with their workouts is you are under-training your legs, man. And when I say so many people are guilty of this, bruh, I don't know how many people who, especially new clients, who will get a leg workout that's made by me, and they're like, Jay, what the hell? Like, you have me doing all this stuff and I can't even walk. And I'm like, tell me about what you were doing before. And they're doing 3 exercises in your legs, right? And legs are kind of similar to the back. Like if we talk about all the muscles that are in your legs, right? Because your leg's not one muscle. Like, give me a break. We've got quads, we've got hamstrings, we've got abductors, we've got adductors, we've got your glutes, we've got your upper calf, we've got your lower calf, we've got, we'll just stop there, right? But like just that alone, I think that's seven or eight different muscles that need to be trained. So why are you going into the gym and doing 3 sets of 3 different leg exercises and leaving, right? Doesn't make sense, isn't gonna work. Based on your genetics, you might have to train, a lot of people have to train legs twice a week. Or sometimes you can get away with training legs once a week. I can train legs once a week. If I train legs twice a week, I tend to start getting a lot of injury, so that's just what I've learned from my own experience. But at the same time, my one leg day does have a fuck ton of volume, right? So what I would recommend, you should be doing at least 2 different exercises for your quads, at least 1 exercise for your hamstrings, and then we've got to work abductors and adductors. You can switch off in phases. So John, like for example, you're saying you're going to do, like if you did a 6-week phase, like you could get away with doing abductors, which is when you push your legs out for 6 weeks, and then the next 6 weeks just focus on adductors. So that's when you squeeze your legs in and together. But yeah, you need to be hitting multiple exercises for a lot of those huge muscles to really have an effective leg day. So let me know if you have any questions about that. But I want to talk about this concept of volume. I've said volume, 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 volume. And some people are like, what the fuck is volume? Like, Jay, your hair's not that long. You don't really have any volume in your hair. What are you talking about? So for those of you who don't know, volume is the amount of weight that you do times the amount of reps, right? So when I'm in my little computer on my app for my clients called Trainerize, making my workout plans, this is the main thing that I'm trying to manage, is the amount of volume that they do and manipulating the amount of volume, which you can basically think of the amount of work that you do over time. So for example, with like having a low volume leg day, a lot of people are guilty of this if you're not doing any sort of compound movement. So you've got no squats, you've got no deadlifts, and then you're just doing leg extensions, leg curls, and adductors and dipping out of the gym. Well, let's do sets times reps, right? Let's make up some number. Let's say that's 5,000 pounds total. That would be the volume, right? But somebody who's actually takes their leg training seriously might be lifting at least 10,000 pounds, and they got the extra 5,000 just from being able to do a squat and a deadlift, because you can put 2, eventually 300-400 pounds on a squat and a deadlift. The average person can when they spend some time working on it. And by not doing anything like that, think about that. If you can squat just 200 pounds alone, right? And you can squat that for 10 times, that's 2,000 pounds in volume that you're missing out on. To be able to get 2,000 pounds of volume from a dumbbell squat, right? That is 25 pounds. Think about how many reps that you would have to do to actually get an effective workout, right? You're not gonna get no rugby player legs or soccer player legs or whatever it is that you're craving from only doing like lightweight exercises and only a couple per leg workout. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is kind of the opposite of the first problem, which is spending too much time in the same training cycle. So John, you talked about switching from 6 weeks to a little longer, which I think is really good. But the biggest thing is like, you need to change your training cycle when you're hitting a plateau. So I just had a call the other day with someone who literally told me they did the same training plan for 8 months, and 3 months, 2 months in, they figured out that it wasn't working. And it was the worst phase to do for 8 months because it was a strength phase. So they were doing low reps, heavy weight, like 4 to 6 reps for 8 fucking months, right? After 2 months, you're probably not getting stronger. You're just setting yourself to be injured. And the thing about a strength phase, for example, is that yes, you are doing low reps, and yes, you are lifting heavier because you're doing the low reps, but overall, you're gonna kind of burn less energy in that phase. So I would only spend a maximum of 12 weeks in a strength phase, for example, where you're doing that light, lower reps, heavy weight before I switch back to an endurance phase, so that then I could transition into a hypertrophy phase. So If those words mean nothing to you, strength is pretty obvious. That's going to be what we just talked about, phase where you're specifically focusing on getting stronger. The reason that you go strength phase to endurance phase is because we get stronger, so then we can start lifting heavier in our endurance phase, right? So then our endurance phase is where we're figuring out how to then move heavier weight, maybe for the next 12 weeks at higher reps, right? So that we have a foundation that supports us so that when we get to the hypertrophy phase, which is a phase where you're kind of in that medium range of 8 to 12 reps, so that you go into, and that's where you're really building the most muscle. You go into that phase not only really strong, but able to move weight for more than 3 to 4 reps, right? Because it's kind of like once you're in the hypertrophy phase, it's kind of those last 3 reps where it feels like your muscles are fucking burning and tearing on the eccentric part that you're really starting to get the most gains. And if you've never done an endurance phase, you can't move consistently with quality movement. You're really gonna have it's gonna kind of fuck up the whole cycle. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know. But I think that's all I have. I think we talked about so much, and there's a ton of value in this training. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on this video, and then I will go ahead and make sure we get the questions answered. And if it's a really good question, I'll do the live training next week on it. And if you're watching this and you're like, Jay, I really want you to talk about this or that, feel free to comment on this video and let me know what trainings you'd like to see me do, or you can send me a private message or a DM or whatever makes you feel comfortable. But yes, thanks so much, John, and everyone who's watching this for being on this call today. I love doing this, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye.